Hey, welcome to episode 27 of the Ascendancy podcast. I'm Austin.
And I'm Chris.
On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the phenomena of vegan celebrity worship. And on social media, it's pretty common to be inundated with exposure to quote unquote vegan celebrities who clearly misunderstand what veganism is, yet they get recognition for doing the bare minimum, and they often become ex-vegans. And this phenomenon of celebrity worship leaves the general public confused or entirely misinformed about what veganism is, and it gives more attention to people who don't deserve it and less to the animals who don't get enough of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for this episode, Austin, and it's really important at the outset to clearly define what veganism is. So, veganism, it's the ethical principle that humans should live without exploiting other animals. Veganism, it's not a diet or an identity someone can perform for an audience. To be vegan entails avoiding buying and or consuming animal flesh, animal skins, secretions, using them for entertainment or testing, or for any other reasons to be consistent with the underlying principle as previously defined. So when we understand this to be what veganism is, and consequently what a vegan person is, we can clearly see that 99% plus of so-called vegan celebrities that people glaze and talk about all the time are not actually vegan. They're merely eating a plant-based diet for maybe a multitude of different reasons. They don't have the mindset up here, which is the rejection of animal exploitation in all of its forms. So I think this is a really important topic to talk about. I see it all the time, different social media news sources, plant-based news sources, vegan organizations shouting out, this celebrity went vegan, or this celebrity is doing this and that. And it's just like, I don't think we should be paying much attention to what these people are doing and obsessing over their lifestyles. And we'll go into it today with some examples, some of the pitfalls when it comes to, vegan celebrity worship. Before moving to the next part, I do want to address this notion that people have, which is that you can be an imperfect vegan, right? You can be 85% vegan or 95% vegan. And this is just a complete misnomer, complete misunderstanding. Veganism, it's binary. You either have the mindset that animals aren't here for us to use, to exploit, or you do. It's either or. So you're either vegan 100% or you're not vegan. You're 0%. There's no such thing as almost being there. It makes it out to be like some lifestyle, some diet that you can like almost be there. Oh, but I still eat honey, or I still ride horses. Like, no, it's bullshit. There's no such thing as imperfect vegans. You either understand that animals aren't our slaves, they are not our property, or you do view them that way, and you do use them in whatever forms are entailed by that. So next up, I'll end it to Austin. We're gonna go through some examples of vegan celebrities over the years, and what we've seen over these years.
Yeah, one of the more common ones, and thank you, Chris, well said, and thank you for getting us started with that. And one of the more famous ones, popular examples, was Miley Cyrus, and she, at her, prime, was constantly being promoted as a vegan. She was doing posts about veganism. She actually owned and ran an animal sanctuary with pigs, chickens, cows, various animals, and especially expressed her love of these pigs. And she was actually spotted by an acquaintance of mine at a restaurant eating a sandwich with bacon on it, obviously non vegan bacon. She later retroactively went on Joe Rogan's podcast and essentially made up a story as to why she was an ex vegan, claiming that it gave her brain fog and she needed to consume animals for her health. And this is amidst a long history of drug use and abuse. Maybe something of that nature could have caused this brain fog, but it demonstrates an extreme disconnect from someone who has an animal sanctuary, who knows pigs, who interacts with them, who knows these animals, and meanwhile, while she's doing all of this and while she's calling herself vegan, is consuming them. And keep in mind, she was calling herself vegan and doing this while she was consuming animals. So anything she says after that is discredited by her dishonesty, while she was claiming to be vegan. The next one, very similar, is Steve-O, who went vegan around 2010 after watching slaughterhouse footage, which pushed him into the ethics of not harming animals, as he says, which of course isn't veganism. And he stayed fully vegan, as according to him, for about a decade, and then shifted into consuming animals. And the reason why his rationale is that not consuming animals was inconvenient to him and results in health issues. So think about it, this guy has millions of dollars, but somehow being vegan, which everyone can do regardless of your place, financially, economically, you can be vegan, but he couldn't figure out how to make it work. Next one is Waka Flocka Flame. Now, Waka Flocka was never actually vegan or even plant-based, but in 2015 he claimed to be vegan for health reasons after he got up to 300 pounds. He thought it would help him lose weight. And when we say vegan, he was praised and promoted for being vegan for being apparently 85% vegan. So this guy was just a 100% regular, typical non-vegan, had a diet that included animals, and I remember seeing this in like around 2018. I think it was plant-based news. I couldn't find the exact article, it looked like it was retracted, but said that, oh, Waka Flocka Flame is now 85% vegan, our latest vegan celebrity. So it just goes to show the absurdity of this. One person who was actually very influential to me, and that's Joaquin Phoenix. He is an actor famous in roles such as Gladiator and more recently The Joker. And he narrated the film Earthlings, which I saw on the day that I went vegan, as well as Dominion. And he's a self-described vegan of 40 years. So Joaquin has been very, into this subject of animal liberation. He's someone who a lot of vegans look up to and are inspired by. And unfortunately, he actively exploits animals. He rides horses. It just goes to show, like, even among the celebrities that vegans most look up to, they don't understand what veganism actually is and themselves exploit animals. Another example is Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time Formula One champion, and he's always been a passionate supporter of plant-based diet and also a self-described vegan. He also posts pictures riding horses and camels and promotes the exploitation of animals. So even these celebrities who vegans hold in the highest regard don't actually understand what veganism is, and they themselves personally exploit animals. And going back to Joaquin and also Lewis Hamilton, when it comes to riding horses, these people romanticize it and they talk about it as though the horses enjoy it and how eager they are to be ridden. And what they fail to mention, aside from the physiological impacts on the horses, such as spinal damage, is that these horses are basically suffering from Stockholm syndrome. A friend of mine who goes by Straight Veg on Instagram did a really thought-provoking post on this that goes into it in more depth, so I recommend looking it up. And this Stockholm syndrome is a condition of developing a bond with a victim's captor. And for perspective, wild horses are incredibly resistant to being ridden. And to actually ride them, ranchers do something that's called breaking them in, which is essentially abusing them into the point of complying. So forcing them into being ridden, using harmful whips and spurs to cause physical duress to the horses until they comply. And once these horses are completely mentally and psychologically broken, then they accept being ridden. So when you ride a horse, this is just one of many examples of exploitation and domination. It's treating them as an object for transportation. We can use our own legs, we can use a motorcycle. We don't need to rely on horses for transportation. Getting some role in a movie doesn't justify it, so it's just hypocritical for someone to claim they're vegan and pretend that they care while themselves personally dominating these animals. And Chris, I know you have some more examples as well.
Yeah, thanks for sharing some of those. But before I go into our next individuals, I do want to comment that in regards to Joaquin Phoenix, to my knowledge, I haven't seen that he rides horses as like a personal hobby. I've only seen that he did it in the movie. I think it was two films that he did it, and to my knowledge, he said that he regretted doing it, but obviously that's inexcusable still because if you're vegan, you simply reject movie roles where you're gonna have to exploit animals and be pictured normalizing their commodification in front of millions of people, normalizing horseback riding. These horses that are recruited for these movies, they've obviously been broken, just like Austin described. They don't have relationships to the actors. Even if they did, it wouldn't make it right. So I just wanted to say that for anyone watching who might be like a big Joaquin fan, they might be like, well, he's not like doing this as a hobby. It's not something he's defended. It's something, to my knowledge, he's spoken that he about that he like regrets doing it. But like I said, it's still inexcusable. And in the description, we're actually gonna link that Instagram post that Austin mentioned by Straight Veg, our fellow vegan activist friend, because he really goes into depth on this, and it's somehow a topic of confusion still. A lot of people think horseback riding is a-okay. Even if you're vegan, the horses like being ridden, all that BS. So we're gonna share that in the description. But I did want to chip in on that because Austin, like I looked into this, and I don't think Joaquin directly like defended horseback riding. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. So yeah, going into our next
Yo, can I
examples.
interject real quick?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I just Googled it, so just to look into it, and that the last time that he rode a horse was in 2023, and this was after the statement where he regretted or claimed to regret riding the horses. So right now, I don't know where he stands on that. I mean, I personally think it's a good idea to still sort of shy away from promoting so-called vegan celebrities. Now, I think that Joaquin definitely has his heart in the right place, and he's definitely someone who's very um, committed to what he views as an ethical treatment of animals from his perspective. But as I've seen the evidence, like right now, it doesn't seem like he understands what veganism is as a stance against animal exploitation. So like until he makes another comment, I suppose we'll see, where he really stands on the subject. But one thing to point is that, celebrities, like everyone, are individuals. They're not infallible. They're prone to misunderstanding things just like we are. So I think it's really important to hold off promoting people unless we know, they're actually understanding what veganism is.
yeah, fair enough. I appreciate the fact check, and like you said, we're just gonna leave it there. In general, knowing that he's ridden horses and he's done it as recently as 2 years ago, yeah, it's just even more evidence for our episode that these people should not be just looked up to as Jesus-like figures and glazed because, like you said, they're fallible. They make mistakes, and hopefully Joaquin realizes the errors of his ways and is fully aligning his actions with the principle of veganism. So yeah, moving on to some of our next people here. The next person is Lizzo. I think she's like a well-known musician, I believe, influencer. She was eating a plant-based diet from 2020 to 2024 and claimed to be a vegan throughout, promoting her diet to her millions of fans and followers on social media. But she stopped eating a plant-based diet in late 2024 last year, saying that reintroducing animal flesh and secretions into her diet helped her feel better, reduce mental fog, and lose weight. She contributed heavily to the misnomer that's already abundant that veganism is a diet, and she promoted that to millions of people around the world because that's all Lizzo saw it as. And when she went ex-vegan, it drew uncertainty to the feasibility of a plant-based diet. and reinforce the notion that veganism is just a diet, it's a preference. You can go on or off it whenever you want to lose weight, whenever you want to feel better, have more energy, even though you can obviously feel great and have good energy on a plant-based diet, as long as it's planned properly. They see it that way rather than a principled ethical stance that should be guiding, a moral agent's behavior. So that's one example. The next example is Peter Dinklage. He's a notable actor, specifically his role in Game of Thrones. He went vegetarian as a teen, and then vegan in 2014 at around 45 years old. Even working with PETA and Farm Sanctuary, promoting plant-based diet adoption, promoting the concept that animals are here with us, not for us. But unfortunately, he stopped being vegan during the filming of Game of Thrones in Croatia, and he said that it was like too difficult or too inconvenient to do that while on the set. I do want to lend it to you, Austin. I know you've been to Croatia actually yourself. What is the access to plant-based food out there, and is that a valid reason to stop eating a plant-based diet?
Yeah, so I've been to Croatia, beautiful country by the way. You can absolutely be vegan in Croatia, and like when you get to these more rural areas, not just in Croatia, but like anywhere, you're going to have, less access to like processed plant-based foods, but you don't need to consume any of that. I had no problem getting all the calories and nutrients that I needed, like even out there. And think of it this way, like every single grocery store on earth has plant-based food. There's no general grocery store, like even in some rural area, that just only sells animal corpses and secretions. Like you can make pasta, and you can eat fruits and vegetables, and you can even find beans and lentils like anywhere on earth essentially. So no, that's just not a valid excuse in any way. Like I made some delicious food when I was out there, and keep in mind, like Peter Dinklage has millions of dollars and an entire production crew following behind him, catering to his every whim. So his excuse is just laughable and just a very weak excuse for not being vegan. Secondly, he's no longer in Croatia or in this rural area in Croatia. So okay, why isn't he vegan now? It's
Yeah.
nonsense, right? And it shows that he never was actually genuinely vegan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was well explained, and thanks for sharing your experience out there. It's even more laughable, like you said, because he has millions of dollars. He's well respected on the set. If he where there's a will, there's a way. If he told them, "Listen, I need vegan meals while I'm out here," they would have got it there somehow, man. They would have had an airdrop. I don't know. They would have had, a bunch of Huel, which is a vegan replacement shake. Pour that in with some water, some soy milk. You'll be all right, bro. It's just he was just not invested truly in the principle, that animals aren't here for us, that we shouldn't exploit them. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Austin. And our last example here is a well-known singer and songwriter, musician, um, named Billie Eilish. So she publicly claims to be vegan. It's a huge part of her, platform. She mentions it a lot on interviews and stuff. And she tries to have plant-based food options at her events, her concerts, and whatnot. However, there was this very viral moment where she was mocking vegans and vegan activists, who are proud to be vegan, who are proudly stand up for animals and their rights. And she also rides horses, I think, as a hobby. She's been photographed riding horses, which is unequivocally, not vegan as explained previously. And we'll once again leave a link to Straight Veg's Instagram post, going over this whole topic. So that's another example of someone who was in the spotlight, who is glazed as a vegan celebrity, but they're not even vegan, and they make fun of vegan activists who proudly, tell people with their platforms that they're vegan. They stand up for the animals, and she literally mocked them in that video, making some type of weird face of like disgust, kind of imitating a vegan activist, and it was just like a joke. Like, is this someone really who cares about animal liberation? I don't think so. So that's our examples. I'm sure you could think of more people, but we don't need to belabor the point. It also reinforces the notion that these people deserve more of our attention if we extend the list and name the more name all the other people that have gone vegan and then stopped or whatnot. So the next part of this podcast, we're going to just kind of talk about the harm that we see when it comes to vegan celebrity worship. So, vegan celebrity worship, glazing them, obsessing about them, talking about them all the time, it just transforms veganism into a trend, a diet, a lifestyle, rather than an ethical stance rooted in justice and equality and respect for the other sentient beings that we inhabit this planet with. Celebrities, they flip flop. Um, they feed anti-vegan propaganda media cycles with their, going plant-based and then going vegan and then going not vegan and saying it hurt their health. Like it just feeds the algorithms to reinforce these misnomers that, it makes them misunderstand what veganism is. They think of it as a preference, a lifestyle, instead of a moral obligation. And they also have doubts about the feasibility of a plant-based diet. And like we talked about in previous episodes, it's crystal clear the science is unequivocally in on this. We got major dietetic organizations around the world, hundreds of thousands of registered dietitians, physicians. They all endorse that a plant-based diet can be healthful if you plan it properly at all stages of the life cycle, whether you're a baby, an athlete, older adult, all across the board. So, and another thing, with vegan celebrity worship is that it centers humans and human identity as who the vegan movement is for, rather than the trillions of exploited and slaughtered animals per year. Vegan celebrity worship, it just it pedestalizes humanness and humanity, uh, and further trivializes the plight of the animals by centering it on personalities, on people, on high status individuals, and that's not what veganism is about. Um, Veganism, it's about the animals and only the animals. It's about their emancipation from human domination, subjugation, and enslavement. It's not about me. It's not about you, Austin. It's not about vegans. It's about the animals. So it's not about high profile celebrities who claim the vegan badge and who so often misrepresent it. So that's some of the harm I see from it. Do you have anything else to share on that, Austin, before we move on to the next part?
I mean, those are great points. That pretty much encompasses the harm that I see as well. And I think really the most significant harm is the complete miseducation of the subject. Like when we promote these people who themselves don't really fully understand what veganism is, and then they have an even greater platform on this subject, what does it do? Well, non-vegans see these celebrities, see the way they talk about it, and then more and more people don't know what veganism is. And right now, there's already a huge problem of people misunderstanding it, thinking that it's a diet or thinking that it's something for the environment or for personal vanity, something that can benefit them. And then we hand everything off to these celebrities who themselves don't know. It only exacerbates the problem. And like right now, this is such a critical time to get the relatively small number of people who are vegan to fully understand it. We shouldn't be detracting from the message even more, giving these people a platform when they don't even know what they're talking about. And then just another just huge problem is that so many of them become ex-vegan, and this is after never even really understanding what it is. So when you prop up one of these celebrities, and you get so many non-vegans and just people like looking up to them, and then they come out as an ex-vegan. Well, what does it do? It shows to the general population that, oh, this veganism isn't feasible. Miley Cyrus couldn't figure out how to have a successful vegan diet, or Peter Dinklage couldn't find plant-based alternatives in Croatia, and Lizzo is now losing weight when she went back to consuming animals, which of course are more calorically dense, and it has nothing to do with Ozempic, by the way. It's, she's an ex-vegan now, and that's what benefited her. That's what people think from this. So why give them the opportunity to mislead the public? And that brings me on to the next point, and that's personal leadership rather than, promoting these popular figures. So rather than promoting and looking up to these celebrities, we need to hold ourselves to the standards that we deem necessary. And we need to become the best voices for the animals that we can be. If we wait for other people to take the lead and do activism for animal liberation the right way, we will only ensure that it never happens. So, as people who care, it's our responsibility, it's our role to become educated on this subject and then educate others on the subject as well. If we think that, okay, these celebrities are going to do it, or even another activist can do it right, that's just leaving things to chance, and it's just a guarantee that things won't happen. And right now, we're at such a critical time where everyone who's vegan really should be doing something, anything in their power, and improving. And rather than looking out to other people, looking to these celebrities and other activists and putting them on a pedestal, why not be, the best person that you can be for the animals? And it, this transcends, this subject and gets into so many other aspects of life, is like, self development. But this isn't like just a matter of self development or something. This is literally a matter of life or death, of slavery and domination versus freedom for these animals. So we can't sit back. We can't hope that these celebrities or other activists will do things right, because one by one they will fail the animals and they will misrepresent the message. So we need to do it ourselves. And when I say ourselves, I don't just mean me and Chris, but I mean everyone watching this. We need to learn and grow and do things the right way rather than just propping up other people who don't really care or understand.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the core message we want to get across in this episode. We have to instead champion ourselves and invest in ourselves to be the activists that the animals need. It's not enough to look up to these figures who, like you said, let down the animals time and time again, misrepresent what veganism is, present it as a diet. It's up to us to, be the change we wish to see in the world. We can't delegate our ethical agency to these, entertainment or high status individuals. It has to be us. We can be the voice and the activists the animals need, and we can do that by, enriching ourselves and our skill sets to be more effective. This can be helped along by learning from other vegan activists in the space, finding the ones on social media or in your local area who truly understand what veganism is, who understand the definition of veganism, and also working with vegan organizations, activism organizations, who truly understand what veganism is and don't misrepresent it, and who are pushing for animal liberation. And in this respect, I definitely recommend working with AV, Anonymous for the Voiceless, looking into that organization. They have chapters worldwide on every continent, and it's a really active animal liberation, movement. I represent it here in Charlotte with my local chapter. It's ran by Paul Bashir and Asal Alamdari, like two co-founders, and they really do a good job. And it's a really good way to get out there, get active, and start being that activist. They post amazing content as well on their social media of all these different activists doing outreach, talking to everyday people on the street, at the Cuba Truth demos, where they're playing footage of what happens to these animals and showing them the light and trying to, edify them and to become better people and more respectful of the animals. And I also recommend reading up on some animal rights, moral philosophy. So a good place to start is the late Tom Regan, who's an American philosopher who wrote some great books on animal rights. And I've read some of his books, and it really helped, set that foundation for the way I represent the animals, the way I do activism, my understanding of the arguments. It's really good to have that perspective. It's obviously veganism, it's not a utilitarian or consequentialist idea. It's principled. It's based in deontology. So looking at, the work of people like Tom Regan, I think is a great place to, like I said, enrich yourself. and invest in yourself to be the best activist you can be for the animals. So yeah, I'll lend it over to you, Austin, for the outro. We'll wrap this one up.
Thank you, Chris. Very well said, and highly recommend to get in touch with your local AV chapter and start hitting people hard with the truth on the street. It's a great way to get to not only educate people as to what veganism is, but show them the reality in conjunction with that education, which is so hard hitting, to understand it from the ethical perspective and see what the violation of that principle actually entails. And, just to reiterate here, veganism and animal liberation will succeed, but it will succeed through consistency, persistence, hard work, us continually refining ourselves as activists, and not through a celebrity influencer. And, they fail the animals, they continue to do so. Some of them, their heart is in the right place, but even then, don't rob the animals, of their potential liberation, of their freedom by promoting them when you can be working on yourself and putting the message out there in an impactful way. So, hey, thank you for watching this episode. We appreciate it. Share your thoughts down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Thank you. Peace.
Peace out.